February 4th, 2021. Hey guys, welcome to your genetically engineered life. No, really, I mean it, because that's exactly where we're at now. So GMO crops, they were only introduced back in the mid-90s. And yet now our world literally revolves around genetic engineering. Okay, genetic engineered crops were introduced then, but we've been doing a lot of genetic engineering for a long, long time. Pretty much the majority of the techniques used in vaccine manufacturing has to do with genetic engineering. And injecting that into our bodies is genetically engineering us. Now we eat genetically engineered crops, and we're facing just so many different challenges in our day-to-day lives specific to the consequences of genetic modification. Now, I actually have a pretty good video that I really recommend you guys take the time to watch. And I go over from the bottom level of understanding through some of the science as to what genetic modification is, the different types of technologies used in our food specifically, okay? The transgenic technologies used, the stacking of the traits that are used. So if you haven't watched Genetically Modified Organisms, GMOs, Don't Buy the Lies, take the time to go find that video and watch it. I have it on YouTube, I have it on Instagram, but it's probably one of my least viewed videos because I think people go, oh yeah, GMOs, I know what those are, and go on eating their GMOs. If you feel comfortable continuing to eat this crap, you haven't done your research. And for those that have watched it, they have been doing their research and they're like, you bet, I don't buy them. We're totally organic. I never would touch a genetically modified food. If you're not to that point yet, at least take the time to watch this. It really does walk you through some of the science and the consequences that we face when consuming these frankenfoods and the different reasons why they're created. But you've got to be looking at independent research. So industry and the regulatory agencies can get around these consequences by cherry picking the data. Okay, they shorten the testing period so that it is completed before adverse events start to arise. Things like early death, a lot of cancers, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, skin cancer, lung cancer, you name it, from GMOs, organ failure, so many different problems, and you have to be walked through the science and understand how they're going to try to debunk. And I walk through all the data in here about our levels of exposure and just things you need to understand. Why it's a big deal, the prevalence of these GMOs in your everyday life, okay, and some of the consequences. But get ready because it's about to get a whole lot worse. So there's been, executive orders signed since the new administration took over around agriculture and farming that's really going to drive society toward this crap, these toxic fake foods, Impossible Burger, lab meat, fake stuff. So a great article just came out, Children's Health Defense and their newsletter, The Defender, okay, talking about the Impossible Burger. And it says fake blood additive in the Impossible Burger was never properly safety tested by the FDA, and that's a big deal. Now, what you need to understand is the majority of all the ingredients that are in this product are genetically modified. And those safety tests that approved those main ingredients, those aren't properly done either. So nothing about this product has been proven safe, ever. Never. So you got to understand, the soy, the GMO potatoes, the genetically modified yeasts, and all the things that they're utilizing to create this garbage, literal garbage, that you will pay good money for and consume this and poison yourself with, is garbage science. Okay? Let's just look at some of the information about this particular topic, the chemicals used to create the illusion of bleeding meat. All right. On January 28th, the Center for Food and Safety filed a legal brief in its challenge to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration for their approval of the soy leg hemoglobin, or the heme, which is a color additive used to make Impossible Food make their plant-based burger bleed like real meat. Okay, this is a psychological game to get you to believe that this is good for you. Everything about our reality is a psychological game, and I hope you're starting to wise up to it. So the novel heme colorant is produced in a genetically engineered yeast and is modeled on a protein found in the roots of soybeans. The genetically engineered heme is actually a color additive preparation that also contains over a dozen yeast proteins. Because the genetically engineered heme is new to the human diet and substantial quantities are added to the Impossible Burger, the FDA should have required extensive safety testing before approving its use as a color additive by law. This could be said about the whole product. Okay, this whole product needs to be safety tested in its entirety as a final product. It's disgusting. So the FDA approved the soy leg hemoglobin even though it conducted none of the long-term animal studies that are needed to determine whether or not it harms human health. You are the experiment. Just like with this new vaccine, just like with every vaccine, just like with every GMO, we are the experiment, and these experiments are going horrible for us. Great for the eugenicists that want power and control and to reduce population and create infertility. All of their agendas and goals are being hit with vaccines, with medicine, and genetically engineered foods. It's disgusting, guys. So the FDA approved, with none of that long-term stuff being done. This includes studies for cancer, reproductive impairment, and other adverse effects called for by the FDA's Red Book, which is the Bible of food and color additive testing. We find this to be all the more troubling because a number of potential adverse effects were detected in a short-term rat trial, including short-term trial. The disruption of reproductive cycles, reduced uterine weights in female, and biomarkers of anemia, reduced clotting abilities, and kidney problems. All of those in short-term trials. Just imagine the long-term consequences. So it goes on to talk about the next steps of going on toward this lawsuit and holding the FDA's feet to the fire to do the testing that they're supposed to do. But it's still, even if they do it, it's going to be minimal, it's going to be short-term, and it's not going to turn out to be anything. Because the corporations, through a revolving door, run our regulatory agencies. They always have, and they likely always will. That's why you have to do your own research. You have to read labels. You have to demand the best for you and your family. So if you go to the Impossible Burgers website, I think the other one's Beyond Meat, they're all garbage, and you do want to have good, healthy, grass-fed, pasture-raised animals as part of your diet. Whether you agree with that or not, it really is an important thing. So the protein that they're getting out of here is going to come from GMO soy, GMO potatoes, and the flavorings are, of course, going to be unnatural. It's going to have heme, which is coming from the soy. It's going to be very excitatory. Yeast extracts, which are also extremely excitatory, like think MSG, monosodium glutamate, can cause neuronal damage, cell death in the brain, all kinds of neurological damage that takes time. It takes decades for you to know that the damage has been done. It's horrible. The fat is going to come from coconut oil, and that's probably the only good ingredient there. The sunflower oil is going to be very high in omega-6 and extremely inflammatory, and then all kinds of disgusting binders, methyl cellulose, food starches that will also be excitatory. So this product is sold to you as a health food. It's exactly the opposite. It's extremely toxic. It's excitotoxic. It will destroy your life. Let's move on away from the GMO plants and see what's coming next. And what I'm specifically referring to, which I do talk about in my original GMO video, is the fact that the entire landscape of cannabis is shifting, and it's shifting rapidly. And don't think for a second that a lot of the laws that are being changed have anything to do with legislators caring about you and your health and the amazing benefits that people suffering from chronic illnesses have experienced from cannabis, whether it's epilepsy, Parkinson's disease, multiple sclerosis, chronic pain, other autoimmune diseases, a million, countless benefits from this plant. That's not why they are flip-flopping from being totally against cannabis to all of a sudden supporting it. This all has to do with the industry is ready to genetically modify cannabis and patent their own cannabinoids and sell them to you and control the flow of money. This isn't about you being able to organically grow your own cannabis plants and utilize the strains that you want in your own way. This is about control and them controlling the process. So let's look at the timeline of where this is going. This goes back to July 2018. This is from Nature. This is coming soon to a lab near you, genetically modified cannabis. And again, they just need to be able to patent a product so that they can sell it to you. Now, Epidiolex is one of the only pharmaceuticals, well, Sativex, several that GW Pharmaceuticals has, who recently just got sold off for over $7 billion to another pharmaceutical company. But all of these benefits that they're going to try to sell you about these genetically modified cannabinoids and cannabis plants, you can have organically by the plant itself, creating your own products, creating your own oils, flour, however you want to ingest it, whatever benefits you need, at whatever dose you need. You can do this all yourself. Very affordable too, but this is going to be a way to funnel and control that flow of money and power specific to the cannabis industry. So this talks about, first they have to tell you how difficult it is to grow the cannabis plant, which is a lie, and that it's so detrimental to the environment, which is also a lie, and that the cannabinoids aren't at high enough levels in the plant to meet demand, and we can do better by genetically modifying. So it's a bunch of crap. And here's how we're doing it now. So August 2019, the bioengineering of cannabis. Genetic modifications could enable industrial scale production of cannabinoids that have pharmaceutical potential. And so it's going to go in here again, tell you that these cannabinoids are fantastic, but in the plant, it's hard to get to them, and it's not as consistent as we would like, and we can do better with genetic engineering and whatever garbage they want to tell you. So CRISPR is talked about being used. For the most part, they're actually just going to focus on creating the cannabinoids using different bacteria and growing them on yeast and creating synthetic cannabinoids, biosynthetic cannabinoids. So for example, it talks here, Cannabis, a cannabis producer in Vancouver, agreed to purchase 36 tons of almost pure bacteria-made CBD from a medical cannabis company in Germany. It's the first deal of its kind for biosynthetic cannabinoids. So they talk about the bacteria that they're using to create cannabinoids like a byproduct of them. Now it says there's at least 18 different companies that are racing to produce cannabinoids in either yeast, in bacteria, in algae, or just by genetically modifying the plant itself and growing them in the fields. So again, this is just kind of laying down the landscape. This is coming. We have so many wonderful ways of doing that. And just growing cannabis is not good for the environment. We have to genetically modify it. So here's some of the most recent technology, of course, coming from investors saying, here comes the genetically modified cannabis strains that you can do. And this one is specific to growing it in yeast. So they got this patent, and it says, we're delighted to receive this patent, which is a result of work carried out by our own scientists. This is an important new technology, will allow us to genetically modify hemp and cannabis plants to modulate their cannabinoid and terpene profiles in order to tailor these plants' therapeutic qualities. Okay, so this one isn't the yeast. This is actually genetically modifying the plant to to custom create the amounts of THC and CBD that it's going to do. Guess what? There are thousands of strains out there. You can easily just go to the market and find the ratios you're looking for, whether it's a 1-to-1, a 4-to-1, a 10-to-1, a 20-to-1, CBD to THC, or vice versa. You don't need this. Through hybridization, we've done this already with natural occurring plants that aren't going to hurt you. The more we genetically modify things, the more they harm us. But that's not the problem. That's not the underlying issue. They want to make money and they want to make it easy. So here's the newest one that just came out. It says, can cannabinoids be cultivated without the cannabis plant? It looks like the answer is yes. And what they're doing here is talking about how great they are for medicine, cannabinoids, which they are. They're part of our physiology and we need them. And they're going to go in and talk about how it's so much easier to make them in these genetically modified yeasts and that you can get a lot more out of it without having to grow. And of course, it demonizes the growing of it because, it uses all kinds of pesticides and different things, which you can organically grow cannabis very successfully without utilizing pesticides, harmful pesticides, and destroying the climate. It is water intensive, and that is one thing that could be an issue, but just wanted to point out that's here. Okay, the genetically modified cannabis and cannabinoids are here. The legislation is going to change, and they're not, the way I see it is they're not just going to say, yes, you can, cannabis is going to be legal. It's going to have to be genetically modified. It's going to have to be controlled by the corporations. It's not going to be what advocates expect or want to see happen. So pay attention to that. So what else is happening in the genetic engineering world? Wheat has been something that they've been looking at genetically engineering, and it's been extremely dangerous. It's been a huge fail. And in fact, some of these failed dangerous crops have made it into the wild in different states. They've found genetic engineered wheat growing where it shouldn't, and so that's a huge threat. But in this particular article, they're talking about genetically engineering wheat and peanuts so that there's fewer allergic reactions. But the ironic thing about this is the only reason we see so many allergies is because of what we do to these plants. There's never been these allergies as to the levels that they're at today. Okay, gluten sensitivity, this allergy they're talking about to the wheat, this is a byproduct of that came about since we started spraying wheat with Roundup, using Roundup as a desiccant right before harvest so that the grain is easily harvested. So we're causing the problem ourselves, these allergies. And then of course the peanuts, that ties back to vaccines, using peanut oils to create some of the emulsifiers that are used in the vaccine, using other vegetable oils. We're combining them with an adjuvant like aluminum and creating allergic reactions to the proteins that are in our food supply. So we're causing the problem and then creating a solution with some scientific patented bullcrap instead of just stop poisoning people. So just to come back to what are your exposures, in my slides you saw that 92 to 95% of the corn and the soy and the canola in the United States are genetically modified. We have alfalfa, papaya, apples, potatoes, canola, soybeans, corn, summer squash, cotton, sugar beets. The majority of the sugar that we use comes from the sugar beets. Cane sugar used to be non-GMO. Well, that's not the case anymore. So now Bayer sells genetically modified alfalfa, apple, canola, corn, cotton, eggplant, papaya, pineapple, potato, soybean, squash, sugar beets, and sugar cane. So even if you're getting sugar cane, it could be genetically modified. They're growing it in Brazil legally now, and they're shipping it to different places. I don't know if it's in our food today. It may or may not be. I tried looking for articles about it, and I found sugar derived from genetically modified sugar cane. Is it safe? They're saying, of course it is. It's just like normal, and no, it's not. It's a Bt toxin, so it revs up the production of this, what is it called? A phytoalexin? I don't remember. It's It's a toxin that plants make, and it revs up the production of that protein so that if pests try to eat it, they're going to die. Their stomach will explode and they die. And now we eat it. So now it's going to be in our sugar, in our cane sugar, beyond just the sugar beets. So you can see they're growing it. The United States Federal Food and Drug Administration has concluded that the raw and refined sugar products from Brazil's first genetically modified sugarcane variety is safe. Yeah, right. Don't believe it. Not true. Definitely dangerous. So just some different articles that I could find about the sugarcane, basically saying that this is actively growing in Brazil. They've shipped off samples to China to get approval so they can start selling and shipping this over to China. Stay away from genetic modified everything, okay? Now, beyond our food, genetic engineering, again, has been used throughout our lives in vaccines. We use genetically modified human albumins and serums to grow the antigens, and then we inject this stuff. It's disgusting. Now, genetic engineering has been used in the COVID vaccines. Yes, of course it has. But they're saying, oh, it's not genetically modifying you. Don't you worry. Well, yes, it is. They go through the, theoretical mRNA technology and how they're just using this messenger RNA to get you to create the protein. So yes, we are becoming genetically modified. And you're being programmed to praise this along the way. This is completely unnatural. It's disgusting. And, they're trying to associate anti-GMO and anti-vax with crazy conspiracy theorists. And how embarrassing, like this title, this sentence right here. Back in July, the European Parliament actually suspended the EU's anti-GMO rules in order to allow the unimpeded development of the COVID vaccine. Very embarrassing for Brussels. I mean, they just use these little tactics in here to make how crazy that anybody wouldn't want genetic engineering. They prefer nature, right? So here's another one. As we have reported before, at the Alliance of Science, the anti-GMO and the anti-vaccine movement substantially overlap. These groups tend to share an ideology that is suspicious of modern science and fetishize natural approaches instead. Whatever natural means. Oh, they're so weird. Natural means natural, okay? So, GMO vaccines, GMO food, CRISPR technologies, transgenic and then transhuman everything. Nothing can be natural. Okay, it has to be patented, you have to be owned, and that's where we're headed. Oh no, it's not about the money. This is altruistic and they're trying to protect us. Really? Pfizer expects to sell $15 billion worth of COVID-19 vaccine in 2021 alone. Pfizer expects to earn between $59 billion and $61 billion, up from $42 billion that it made in 2020. Guys, it's about the money. You are a commodity. You are a consumer of this crap, and then you are a customer for life when these things damage you and you're reliant on the drugs to keep you alive for as long as you can before you die. Now, I was going to go into a great article about the gut microbes, the gut-brain axis, and some of the disorders here. We'll do that another day. We'll just end it here. You are in control, okay? Don't allow your life to be genetically modified, okay? It's not worth it. You're perfect. Your body was made perfectly. It has a divine blueprint, okay, of genes and DNA that can be influenced by epigenetic factors, okay, environmental factors. Maybe only 1.5% of our DNA actually is tied to genetics. Okay, the other 98.5% is going to be driven by epigenetic factors that are going to turn on and off switches producing disease or health in our life. Go do your research. Anyway, if you haven't seen the GMO food my GMO Don't Buy the Lies video. You should watch it. I have another one called Agent Orange Soy that talks about some of the other traits that have been added to these GMO products that all compound not only transgenic issues within the plant that affect us epigenetically, but the amount of toxins that we're exposed to when we eat crap like Impossible Burger or any processed food that has a genetically engineered ingredient in it. So do your due diligence. Make sure you're reading labels. Commit yourself to organic. Commit yourself to cooking at home and making your meals and being a part of, I guess, being the captain of your life, and stop outsourcing your life to the industry because they don't have your best interests at heart. All right. I hope that was okay. Thanks, guys.